reading just never came naturally to me. So for the longest time in my life, I just never thought that I would be able to engage with books and thoughts like that, because it's just not the way that I learn and not the way that that my brain works. So today I'm going to be doing the new booktuber book tag. I feel like I've waited my whole life or definitely waited for like a really long time while I've been on YouTube to do this video. The booktube community is the oldest community that I've really been a part of as I've been on YouTube. And it kind of was probably one of the first communities that I ever kind of started to be a part of when YouTube communities and subsets of YouTube as a platform were really created. And I probably started watching in like middle school. So it's kind of full circle, big full circle to be creating my own booktuber tag and doing the video. So I'm actually really excited to get started. I got a little hot. It's this rap. It's this. Now, if you don't have this fan, I'll put the link in the description. So the first question on the booktuber tag is, why did you start your channel? So I've always admired the creative outlet and the art form of a video essay. I've been watching them for years. I really love listening to people talk and understanding more about their ideas and how they see the world and how they see pop culture or books or music. I started this channel because I'm just a very long-winded person. If you haven't checked out my first YouTube video, go ahead. It's literally me talking for half an hour straight, no breaks, talking about popular culture and music that I'm interested in and different stuff like that. Thank you so much for people who have watched that video. It was so fun to make, and listening to other people's thoughts about, you know, what I shared and how I edited the video and how it all came about. So first, I guess thanks so much for watching that. But if you haven't watched it, go ahead and check it out. And I think it really showcases my interest in like creating art and creating videos like that. I specifically created this channel because I wanted a place not only for me to like share my thoughts, a place that I can go back and look at how my ideas and opinions have changed throughout my life, a time for me to really think about a lot of different concepts and try to put them into a well-packaged video. And so I've always wanted to do that work. I've admired channels like For Harriet and gurlz and T Noir, FD Signifier, Jenny Nicholson, all those like content creators that just kind of get on the camera and talk about their ideas. I love that. I think it's so fascinating. And so I wanted a place to do that for myself. And so that's really why I started this channel. And I hope to, you know, grow in my own capacity to push my own pen, if you will, and my own thoughts and ideas about concepts in pop culture. Ultimately, I think that's why I started my channel, and I hope to continue to do that. The next question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to booktube? I think I'm still figuring out what sort of fun and unique things I want to bring to my platform and to the booktube community, integrating my own passions for pop culture and music and different forms of media into the books that I'm reading and talking about with my friends. And so I think that's, while I'm still working on what my personal thing will be as I'm still kind of creating, I think is interesting. So I hope it's something that may be a little bit unique or different from other channels. The next question is, what are you most excited for about this new channel? So I'm actually really excited to edit. Like when I was in high school, I thought I was gonna go to school for like digital media and like video production and stuff. I ended up not going that path for like college or grad school, but I always found it to be so fascinating and a really cool creative outlet. I used to do it back in like early middle school, like late middle school, early high school. I used to like make little Instagram videos when Instagram only allowed you to do 15 seconds of video. I also made kind of short form video essays on my Instagram as well later in my college year. So probably like my junior or senior year, I started making those videos. And so I've always loved and admired the editing process and what it takes to create the lighting and background music and all the other stuff. Like I'm trying to find like copyright free, royalty free, all of that stuff so I don't get copyright strikes, like background music. Eventually getting like a real camera as I'm filming on one of my like old phones. Cool editing software. I'm gonna get hopefully at some point get a new laptop so I can start editing on like a laptop instead of my iPad. My first video was crazy long to edit. It was still really fun and I loved I love like cutting different things and having like transitions, like typing sounds and stuff. Like, I love all of that. I think it's really fun. Connecting with people around the books that I'm reading and the books that they're reading is something that I'm really interested in doing, aside from like the editing. But I think the editing and like coming up with cool thumbnails and like editing that, I just find that to be really like satisfying. So doing that is something that I'm really interested in doing for this channel and other videos that I do in the future. The next question is, why do you love reading? And if the title doesn't give it away, I actually don't like to read. And maybe that's something that's kind of unique about my channel, is that I primarily and basically exclusively only engage with books through audiobooks. So Audible and Libby are basically the main avenues that I use to like read. I'll have maybe sometimes have the like digital version or copy of a book. I can like take notes and like annotate from there. I've always struggled with reading. Academically, it was always one of my lowest parts in my academic journey and being able to comprehend what I read. My mom helped a lot and put me in different like reading organizations to help improve kids' reading and stuff like that, without getting into all the like weeds and like the details. And I think they're probably like learning abilities that probably just have gone undiagnosed for most of my life. But I used to get so anxious reading and cold reading. So like reading something like a text that I've never seen before, fearing like stuttering. Like I was always the person in class when we had to like read different excerpts from the class. Like I would be very strategic with where I sat so I could read the text beforehand so I didn't stumble upon my words and like all the other stuff. So reading just never came naturally to me. So for the longest time in my life, I just never thought that I would be able to engage with books and thoughts like that, because it's just not the way that I learn and not the way that my brain works. So I don't actually love to do it.
Your wife can't read. And they got her on fucking TV.
My freshman year of college was where it was like the roughest for me academically, because I realized that, you know, you really have to teach yourself in college and read the textbooks and like gain but deeper understanding and knowledge. And that was just an avenue of learning that I could never see for myself doing. So I never would do it. So of course my grades, you know, were negatively impacted with that. Reading just was like really always tough for me. Like I was saying, like maybe the middle of my freshman year of college, where I realized that if I heard the book, then I would be able to understand the concept a little bit more. So instead of buying physical books, and then the next semester switched to like digital books so that I could do the text to speech features on like my computer. And I found that that really helped a lot for me, because I didn't have to like get caught up on like if I couldn't read a word or if I was like stumbling on stuff. And it was really changed the whole game for me. Like I really was like, oh, like I can read in this capacity and like engage with like ideas and text without having to struggle through like, reading the physical book. Now that I've discovered that about myself, engaging with books in the way that I am more comfortable with, I think I just love immersing myself into other people's ideas and thoughts. Being able to share that with other people is really fun. I'm not someone that needs to share with like a lot of different people the books that I read. I primarily would like connect with like 1 or 2 friends. Would love to do that with more people. So I think creating this channel would also help me with my love of reading and engaging with books, because ultimately I think that's going to help the way I engage with books and authors. And the next question is, what book or series got you into reading? I'll go into more detail about The Hunger Games in a later question, but Hunger Games was definitely one of the like main series that got me into reading. That, then Percy Jackson, just like mostly anything Rick Riordan. I've read of course the original Percy Jackson series, the Heroes of Olympus series, the Kane Chronicles, like half of the Magnus Chase series, I think, and then I kind of stopped after that. I think I read the first book of the Apollo series, but I stopped after like the first book or whatever. But those 2 were really pivotal. Then the Shadowhunter series, so Cassandra Clare books, so not all of, well, actually a lot of them. So the Mortal Instruments, Infernal Devices, Dark Artifices, something like that. So those are like the main like series. So like I'm a big fantasy reader, and I was a huge YA fan when I was younger, and I still read a lot of things that pertain to like YA, and still keep up with some of those like series and stuff like that, especially like the Shadowhunter series. Like I still read all of those books, and we'll be reading the next series that like comes out in that universe. All the like supernatural fantasy stuff, like anything like that was really good for me. I actually, funny, I didn't read Twilight, which I was a huge Twilight fan with the movies, but at the time I was like, I didn't really know much about audiobooks, so I was like, I'm never gonna read. Those books are huge. Like, I'm never gonna be able to finish any of that. So I just never read that book. And I think it's something that I'm probably gonna go back to. I really love the like Twilight movies, so I didn't want to mess up the Twilight movies by reading the books and being like, oh, like the book to movie adaptation is terrible.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
But I think at some point I'm probably gonna read them just for like the nostalgia of it all. But yeah, those fantasy series were definitely ones that like got me into reading just for escapism. I love that, like being immersed in a different world where there's magic and all that other stuff. Love that. Next question is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? So if you can't tell, I'm actually wearing Ariel's merch. So Ariel wasn't the first booktuber that I watched. I think it was Katie-tastic was the first booktuber that I ever found. I'm gonna talk about that in another question. I loved Ariel's content when I was younger in like high school and stuff. So the one question I would ask her, if she can get this sweatshirt in a bigger size, like one, just like a 4X. Like you got the 3X and it's nice, and if you know this fits okay. She's a little snug. She's just a little snug, and I would love a little more room. So I would ask Ariel to make a bigger size in this. And I actually get so many compliments on this sweatshirt, like one of my most complimented articles of clothing. So I'm like holding on to it to make sure I don't get any like stains on it or anything. Watch me try to drink this tea and then spill something on this shirt, and I'm gonna be so sad. But yeah, I would ask her to make, can she make a larger size for the sweatshirt? What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So if the title doesn't really give it away, reading. Just finding the time to read. Also the fact that I primarily engage with books in an auditory, like in an audible and audio format. They're pretty expensive. Thankfully, I have the Audible like membership or whatever to get like the free credit a month. And you know, my dream is to one day to be sponsored by Audible. Hit your girl up. Mostly because reading doesn't come as naturally to me, and then I do primarily engage with books in an audible, like Libby kind of like audiobook format. It's harder to like engage with those sometimes. They're really long. I'll speed it up or whatever, but sometimes it's like hard to like find them, or they're more expensive because, you know, the production value and like because how long they are. That is definitely gonna make it challenging to like keep up to date with creating book related content. I wouldn't necessarily say that my channel is going to be a booktube solely, so it's not gonna be like as difficult because I don't necessarily see my channel as just a booktube channel. It's more like a cultural commentary, pop culture, like video essay style format, but I know that I'll eventually be making content that's specifically about books. And I also wanted to, you know, have an excuse to like make more content because I need to do that. So this tag was gonna work, but I don't necessarily think that my channel is going to be fully a booktube channel, and I think I'm okay with that. Like, I don't necessarily need to be like creating a ton of content regarding books, but I do want to make stuff about books. I thought it would be great to like do this tag, introduce myself to the community. But I think reading just in general is gonna be a challenge for me. Of course, staying consistent with creating videos and having video ideas that are like interesting for people and interesting for myself to like engage with. So that, I think all of that is gonna be challenging. And like sometimes it'll just take me months to get through an audiobook. Like I'll just be listening to it forever just because I don't like to force myself to like engage with a book if I'm not really feeling it. Like I have so many books in my Audible that I like got using my credit, but I didn't ever finish them. I think I saw another creator talking about like mood reading, but I just don't like to force myself push through a book if I don't see myself like continuing with the series or like anything like that. So sometimes it'll just take me forever to stay engaged with a book. Maybe listen to music, or the book will remind me of a song and then I'll go listen to the song and then forget that I was like reading. So that is definitely something. Even before I released my first video essay, I've always wanted to like start a booktube. I never did. And for a long time, it was hard for me to like legitimize my own reading because I wasn't physically reading a book. So I feel like I was like cheating. So it took me a really, really long time to legitimize the fact that like, you know, all different types of reading is reading and engaging with novels and text and like what authors have to say. It's still all valid in different capacities and everybody has different ways in which they learn. Legitimizing my own reading and the way that I do engage with books is something that'll be challenging for me. I'm trying to get to a place where it's like easier for me to do that. The next question is, when did you start reading? I think I first started reading and engaging with books in like an Audible like format when I was in middle school. In like 2013, when I was in like the 7th or 8th grade, we had to read the entire Hunger Games series. And so the movies were coming out at that time. Like I think the first one may have been out. The second one and third movie were gonna come out soon, but I think all the books were out. I had watched the first movie. I had all of the books. My mom bought me all the books. The book and the movie adaptation were very seamless. I didn't really even have to read the first Hunger Games book since the first movie was such a really detailed and accurate book to movie adaptation. I didn't really have to read the first book.
I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this. When my mother yells at this, it's because she loves me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this.
The second movie wasn't out yet, or it was like coming out. We were gonna move on to Catching Fire, I think, at some point when the movie was not out. So I was like, oh my God, like I can't use the movie as a reference. I actually have to like read it. And I was like, there's no way I can read this book. Like it's too long. Like all of my different anxieties around reading came up and I was like, I can't read this or whatever. So then I looked up the video, like the book on YouTube, and I ended up finding an audiobook. Like, and it was the book and it was a video, but it was like really long. And I was like, why is this video so long? And they were like, you know, audiobook for Catching Fire. And I was like, no, this is genius. I said, you're reading the book to me? Why didn't anybody think of this? I was so skeptical. I had my physical copy and I started the YouTube video and I was reading along with the book because I'm like, they have to be lying. There's no way that they're just reading the book to me. I sat there and I was like, okay, I opened the first page and I played the video and I was like reading the book as I was listening to it. And I said, they're saying every single word that is on this page. I don't have to read the book. I can just listen to them read it. When I had to go do something or whatever, I would like screenshot on my phone where I left off, and all the chapters that we would have to read for class, I would just listen to them right before class and like take notes. And I was like, whoa, this is next level. I was doing so well in the class because I was really able to engage with like conversation and like all the other stuff. And then I really just fell in love with the world and the writing and like the characters. And I was like, this is so fun. Like, I want to keep doing this. I wonder if there are more books like this. That's how I really started reading. That's also when I found booktube. I saw Katie Tastic's video talking about the Hunger Games. And I was like, oh, she's just talking about the book. Let me see if she can like, you know, tell me some stuff about the book so I can like also be prepared for class. And then I just found myself going to other people's channels. That's how I found Polo Banana's books and Jesse the Reader and Ariel Bassett and Toshopolis, like all of those different like creators at the time that was like coming up when booktube was like a really big, when it was just like very new. I was like, I wonder what, you know, what books they're reading. And so I would get so many recommendations for other, you know, fantasy YA series to like read at that time from those, you know, content creators. That's kind of my start for reading. It then continued in high school with the Percy Jackson series. So Heroes of Olympus came out. One of my best friends, our Spanish teacher, gave us the rest of the series for Heroes of Olympus. I was like, I still can't read this. Like, I'm still not going to be able to like read these books. And I saw that she was interested in them too. And I was like, I didn't know anyone else that was like into Greek mythology, into like Rick Riordan's work. And I was like, I wonder if I could get her to read the books to me. And so we can engage, because it was like, I wanted someone to talk about the books with because nobody else was like engaging with them at the time. But I also like couldn't afford to get the audiobook at the time, or like the audiobook was taking a little while to come out on YouTube because I wasn't like paying for them at the time because I didn't have like the Audible subscription. His books really brought me and one of my like best friends together. We got the books and then she ended up like reading them to me. And then we ended up doing that for like about 2 years. We would just like read books together all the time. So I would like call her at like 5 o'clock in the morning in high school and we would get up on the phone. I would just listen to her read the books and we would talk about them. Once I got like an Audible subscription, and we would read them on like our own pace and then talk about them. And it was really like, it was so fun to do that. And so those were really how I like started on my path of like reading and like learning what I liked in books. So the next question is, where do I read? So because I'm mostly an auditory learner and listener in regards to books, I read anywhere. I often am listening to a book when I'm doing my skincare routine in the morning. I just finished The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. It's always a really like nice self-care moment when I'm doing my like toner and SPF and face masks and stuff like that. I'll like always have a book or like music on, but I'll primarily like start like be listening while I'm like putting on lotion after the shower. And I'll do that like every morning, kind of like as a morning ritual for myself to like engage with a book. I'll do it like in the car. Like if I have like a long car ride or something like that, I'll either put on music or a book that I'm listening to. So primarily, so it's really anywhere. Like if I'm going walking or whatever, I'll just like pop on a book. If my headphones are in, which they usually are, it's either a book that I'm listening to, a YouTube video that I'm watching, or music that I'm listening to. That's mainly all I do with my time for the most part. The next question is, what kind of books do you like to read? I love fantasy. I'm a huge epic fantasy, YA fantasy, like anything mystical and magical. It took me a long time to read like nonfiction books or memoirs and different stuff like that, because I used reading as like an escape from the world and like different stuff. So I love anything with like a fairy. So Sarah J Maas, love her books. Like I've read the whole Throne of Glass series, all of ACOTAR, and like the Silver Flame. I just started, like as I'm recording this video, I just started the House of Flame and Bone, or how, what is it called? What is this book? I said House of Flame and Bone. What is it called? House of Flame and Shadow. I literally just started the House of Flame and Shadow book. I'm on chapter 2. Love fantasy. Brandon Sanderson is a huge author. So the Mistborn trilogy, The Way of Kings, love that. I love anything like mystical and magical. I love books like that, like Tomi Adeyemi's Children of Blood and Bone. I've been a lot more intentional as I've been getting older to read books that are by Black authors and that center Black characters. I've been reading a lot of N.K. Jemison's series, so Thousand Kingdoms, I think the series is called. 5th season series, I read that. I recently just finished her duology, The Cities We Became, or The Great Cities duology, I think, because I found that like in fantasy, or like the fantasy authors that I read, primarily white authors that mostly centered white characters, which was fine, but I think that for the longest I was like craving characters that looked like me, or characters that resembled people that I knew, and they just weren't creating those characters, and if they were, they didn't really necessarily feel like authentic to me. So finding and searching for more authors that are creating work that like specifically showcases my own experiences. So I've been getting into more Black queer authors and that create Black queer content, Black queer books. Recently read And Then He Sang a Lullaby, Punch Me Up to the Gods, B-Boy Blues, Belly of the Beast, Boys Come First. No, I'm from Detroit originally, born and raised like in the city. So Boys Come First was really good for me because it was like they were from Detroit. The book was like based in Detroit, and it was these like Black queer friends. Loved it. And lastly, what does your book collection look like? I think I have one physical book and I've never read it. It's like it's like a graphic novel or something like that. I don't actually like having physical books because I listen to stuff through Audible. This is literally what my this is what my book collection looks like. Just Audible. And Libby. I don't think I have anything on my shelf anymore. Oh no, stop. I don't like keeping physical books. I'm not like a physical book collector. I think and I also move a lot. Like lately I've been moving a ton, and I just don't want to move with books. Like I don't like to keep a lot of stuff that I would have to like be transitioning to different places. If I were to ever get like a house or a place that I was like, okay, I'm going to be here for like the rest of my life, then I probably would get like a book collection. Yeah, I don't have a book collection. I don't want to have a book collection. I don't buy books physically at that. Like I really just have Audible stuff. And that's the booktuber tag. That's crazy. Thanks so much for watching. I'm really excited to like make new book content. Like I could see myself doing more like book talks, and just having like conversations about the books that I'm reading. And Ariel, I'm serious. Like, can you please just one size up? Just 4. I think you should go to 5, but like for the big girls, but like just one more size up, please. And I would love this to be in brown, like this kind of like brown. Okay, bye.